Welcome to The Decision from Nashville EO, where you will hear the rest of the story after tough decisions were made by entrepreneurs who faced adversity and lived to tell about it.
Welcome to The Decision, the podcast of EO Nashville, where we talk to EO Nashville members, entrepreneurs who are in the midst of battle, starting, building, growing, managing, and maybe even selling their business. We're here to talk about those experiences and what it looks like. And with me always, my partner in crime, Mr. Robert Hartline.
Thanks for having me once again.
And once again, I'm in the groove here.
Well, you're doing it.
Can never leave you out. And our extra special guest today, past president of EO Nashville, and my friend, Mr. Alan Young.
Absolutely, two of the greatest titles you can have: past president.
That's right.
And Eric Jackson, and Robert Hartline's friend. So
yeah, exactly.
So doesn't get much better.
Yeah. So we haven't been in person since we had dinner on 12 South. A while back. Yeah. I thought about you the other day, and we need to make that happen again.
We do.
That was a damn good time.
We do. It is always a cleansing experience.
That's right. We just share we relive those past president memories. And how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I think as you get older, you realize that you need to appreciate the things that happen more, and I'm just kind of in that space, kind of letting things go and just being as present as I can be, and smiling and laughing and having fun.
It's good. It's a good place to be.
It is. Can't say I've always been there, but yeah, it's good to be here.
So Armor Concepts. You created something that is kind of unique in the marketplace. Tell the audience a little bit about how that idea came about.
Armor Concept. So I went to Vanderbilt. I played football there. A lot of people know that. Played a couple years after college. Went into banking, and after being in banking for 7 or 8 years, I decided it was time to figure out what I wanted to do something else, and was trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up and started flipping properties. People kept kicking in my doors, so we developed a way to stop people from kicking in our doors and stealing all of our pipes and everything else on the properties that we were renovating. And 20 plus years later, we're still doing it. So,
and it was your first business, right?
It was my first business. I always I thought I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I honestly just fell into what I'm doing. Had you told me when I was banking that I would be selling door hardware, that I don't think I would have believed you.
They didn't talk about that at MBA school, did they?
They did not talk about this at business school. They did not talk about any of the stuff, a lot of the stuff that I've been through as an entrepreneur in business school. But yeah, it's honestly been a great journey. And I think that, one of the things I'll talk about today is just enjoying it while it's happening, rather than looking back and enjoying it after you've kind of been miserable doing it, and being happier with the decisions that you make and things like that. So
crossing the big 5-0 makes a difference, doesn't it?
It does. Crossing that, and so I have 4 kids, and my youngest graduated from high school last year. And, when your kids are out of the house, it gives you more time to think and more time to reflect and think about what's important. So that has been it's been a good period for me. I think it's been a good period for my wife as well.
It's strange seeing in Facebook this time of year. You see all those posts with everybody sending their kids off to school, and it's like really sad to me.
It is.
Like it's very emotional. Last year, became more aware that, oh my gosh, that's going to be me, and not very long.
Yeah.
And it's like this major sense of sadness.
And then they go away to college, and like that, they're adults.
Oh, they're done.
And
yes,
we went to Dallas with my daughter and son-in-law last weekend. Of course, that's where the shirt came from.
Nice.
You have to look like you're from Dallas. And so, we took this trip, and you have to be very intentional about being with your kids. And because you spend the vast majority of their childhood having physical access to them.
That's right.
And then they move away, and you have to engage. And if you're not careful, you can kind of they drift away a little bit too far. So I know you've experienced this more than I have.
Yeah, I definitely have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with 4, it's kind of funny. Being a parent is, especially as you get older, you realize what a privilege it is to have so much control over someone else's life and outlook on life, and just to watch people grow up and move on and go through stages. And you having 4, you realize that you can do more to screw them up than you can to really help them in a lot of ways. And you realize that a lot of the things that they do are, I say, the good things are because of God. The bad things are probably because of you. And as you have one kid that is, especially if you have one kid that's smart or successful, you tend to think that it's because of you. And and that's God's trick to have you have the second one.
Right.
And the third and the fourth, and you realize that they're all different, and you realize that you really can have you can have positive impacts as a parent. You certainly can, and you can have negative. So it's the negative ones that you really need to be aware of. And that's one of the things that I'm gonna talk about today.
Yeah.
So,
any entrepreneurs in the group?
I think my son might be an entrepreneur. I also think my youngest daughter, possibly. She's the poet laureate, and she is always talking about doing something, as far as her books and other stuff are concerned. But I think he has the entrepreneurial bug. He kind of marches to his own drum, and
that's what it takes.
Yeah, it does. It takes the ability to be different and be comfortable with it.
How long did it take you? How long had you had the company before you joined EO?
I really started the company in 2006. We started selling, and I joined EO in 2011.
Okay. What was Alan?
But I moved here. I lived in New Jersey, and I moved here, and I joined EO really shortly after I moved to Nashville.
Yeah. What was Alan like before EO?
As far as running the company, it was certainly lonely. Sorry. It was certainly lonely. Yeah, those are ticks. It was certainly, you didn't have anyone to really talk to, and you felt like everything that you did was wrong, and you're the only one that ever did anything wrong. And, because everybody else that's an entrepreneur seemed to be just doing great. And on the outside, everything looks fantastic. And when you join an organization like EO and you kind of get through that outer shell, you realize that everyone has the same problems, if not worse.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I don't know if I trade places with anyone, because if you trade places, you got to take all of their bad stuff.
Yeah.
And everyone has stuff that, you don't see from the outside. Right. Everyone, especially in this social media age, everything looks fantastic, but you don't see the problems that they're having with their kids. You don't see the sick kid. You don't see the problem that they're having with their parents. You don't see what they had to deal with growing up. You don't see all of the stuff, all the baggage that they have. Everyone has it. But you realize it when you're in forum and you get the chance for people to actually open up and be real with each other, and that you're not alone. And it's being an entrepreneur can be very lonely, especially, I've told a lot of people this, that most entrepreneurs, I believe that a lot of entrepreneurs are introverts. Mm-hmm. All right. We have to be extroverted in order to be successful in our business. But I think a lot of us like being with the people that we like being with. And if we're not with anyone else, we're pretty good with that. And so being able to be in situations where you can talk about the things that matter to you and don't really have to worry about talking about things that don't matter to you is great for me, because especially now I'm at the point in my life where I just have zero desire to talk about anything that I don't want to talk about.
Yeah. Well, and I've experienced this with just about everybody I know in EO. It's we don't talk about the weather. We just go straight to the things that really matter.
Yeah.
And that's
small talk. It doesn't compute with me. I've never really been great at it. I mean, I can do it, and I can relate to a lot of different people, but I would much rather spend an hour talking about something that is at a deeper level than 30 seconds talking about something that I don't have any interest in.
Yeah. What do you think was the toughest moment early on in the business starting that you struggled with, that became an obstacle that you had to navigate?
Oh God, there's been so many obstacles in my business. Someone told me once, you're not a real man until you've had to make payroll. And I would say man or woman, but I believe that is true. If you've never been in a situation where payroll is tomorrow and you have no idea how you're going to make that happen, you have no idea what that feels like. And most of the entrepreneurs that I know understand what that feels like. Most of them understand what it means to have everything be going wrong and know that you're the reason why. and be secure enough, or, just understand that, hey, you know what? It's going to be okay. And I think that's one of the things that EO does, is it lets you be around other people who have failed. And, when I talk about business, I mean, frankly, most of the times when I talk to people in EO, I talk about kids and family and the impact that running our business has on your kids and your family. Mm-hmm. I mean, as an entrepreneur, you are at the center of every decision that is made a lot of times. And, when we go on vacation, there's times when I'm like I don't care where we go. I tell my wife, I don't care where we go. I don't care what we do. Just please don't ask me to make a decision.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's so true. That is so true.
My daughter calls me a travel princess.
Yeah.
Because I'm same way. Yes, just tell me.
I'll follow.
I won't complain.
Nope.
You just don't ask me.
Just don't ask me.
Do you? When you were talking about payroll, I specifically remember pacing the back of my store on Trousdale Drive when I couldn't make payroll. Yeah. I called my dad because it's like, I need some money, like
yes.
now,
like yes. now. Yeah. And he was like, "Hey, not gonna help." And I had this overwhelming sense of like total responsibility. Like in my back of my head, I always had like this backup.
Yeah.
That I could just call dad. And then that shaped me, knowing that I couldn't go there. Yeah. And I got more focused on running my business right because him saying no. And I'm thankful he didn't give me money.
You are the safety net.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Did you have any of those close calls you couldn't make it, or?
Oh, I had lots of close calls where, somehow, and I think a lot of people that I talk to have had the same thing happen, where you don't know how you're going to make payroll and the check just happens to come in.
Yeah.
Or you pay everyone else.
Yeah.
All right. And you don't pay yourself. So I've had to do that before. And it's not fun. And there's times when I've had to tell, I've just told employees, look, we're going to get paid tomorrow. Right. And, I hate to do it. I know you have things to take care of. And if there's fees or whatever, I'll take care of it for you. But that's just, we're waiting on this check. It didn't come in today, or it came in and we couldn't get it deposited or whatever. And I think the thing that you realize when you've been through a lot, I talk to my kids about this. When you realize your worst fear, all right, when a lot of the most successful entrepreneurs have been bankrupt. A lot of them have failed. And when you realize that there is that when you go through the worst possible thing you think you can go through, and you come out the other side, everything else just doesn't seem that serious, right? And there was a couple of years ago, our house flooded, and in the course of a couple of days, I went from I had no house, I had no car, I had all the things that seemed to be important, were just gone. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of friends that came by and worked with us and cleaned out and did a whole lot of stuff. And at those moments, you realize that, if you had told me when I was 30, 33, 34, 35, making $500,000 and, as a banker, and just that I would be at this point, and we didn't have, it was a flood. I'm not in a flood zone. We didn't have insurance. So flood insurance. So it was a significant time, and it was hard, and, paying 2 mortgages because we had to rent an Airbnb, and, friends helped us find a place to live where we could all stay together. We lived with friends for a while, and, you realize someone's your friend when they take your kid and your dog for a couple of months.
Yeah.
And
wow.
and never say a word about it other than it was so much fun having them. Right. And those are things that I talk to my kids about, that if you really think about, okay, what is the worst thing you believe can happen, and it happens, you understand that, life is pretty good, and you need to enjoy life when it is good.
Yeah. And,
you're probably going to make it through just about anything if you think about it in the right way. And when I talk to my kids, there's, one of the things you talked about, things that you do and things that you stopped doing, or things that you started doing. So one of the things I started doing, kind of in the spirit of EO, with my kids, is I've stopped letting my kids believe I'm perfect. Right? Because whether you believe it or not, as a successful entrepreneur, a lot of us are very successful in our own right. And your kids don't believe you've ever failed. Your kids don't believe that you've ever done anything wrong. And
we usually hide it.
Yeah.
If we do.
And we do. And what happens is they grow up believing that they have to be perfect.
Yep.
And one of the reasons I believe that kids are so depressed is because they, a lot of us did not grow up having expectations, or having a certain degree of expectations. So when you hit a certain degree of success, it just kind of happened.
Yeah.
But when there's someone before you and those expectations are set, and like Dan Snyder talks about, you have this ideal vision of what you have to be and what you have to become, it's impossible to achieve. And so I've made it a point to tell my kids like a lot of the dumb shit that I did and a lot of the mistakes that I made, especially my son.
Yeah.
Because, I realize that he has an impossible expectation to live up to, especially if he believes that no mistakes were made.
Yeah.
And the one thing I've realized is your kids are comparing themselves at their age to you at your age. So one of the things that I've told my son in particular, because he went through a significant depressive episode last year, is you can't compare the 19-year-old you to the 53-year-old me. Right? You're not. You're discounting, all of those years of failure and learning and growth. And that's, I think something that parents need to be very open with their kids about, and spouses as well. Right? I mean, a lot of us were younger when we got married, and it's really easy to look, to kind of forget about that journey and all that stuff that happened along the way. And I think the more you're honest with the people that are close to you, we talk about it with Forum and that 5%, but I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense to be open and just honest with your forum mates. And there's certain things you obviously don't want to tell your kids, especially as they start getting older. I think it's important to let them know that you're human. And I don't think enough of us do that, right? And one of the things that Dan Sullivan talks about, for those that have read the 10X books, is the people that commit suicide are always the successful people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The people that are the most depressed are the ones that are the most talented. Right? It's the best students. All right? It's the A students that commit suicide.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the C students that commit suicide. All right? It's the star athlete that commits suicide. All right? And they do it because they don't believe that, that they've done everything right, and they have the rest of their life, all they have to look forward to is doing everything else right.
And in comparison
to
other people,
to you as their father or their mother, who is perfect in their eyes, who's never made a mistake, who is has this goal that they'll never be. And I think it becomes unbearable. I mean, just like it becomes unbearable to us, to try to live up to the ideals of ourselves, or the other people in your forum, right? I mean, if you go around an EO forum, so two things that I think I've stopped doing is I've stopped letting my kids and family believe that I'm perfect. And I've stopped letting myself believe that I'm not. Right? Because it's so easy to look at yourself as a failure. Right? And I think if you go around the table in an EO forum, everyone will point to someone else as the most successful person in that group. Right? And they'll a lot of us will, I'm a terrible I'm terrible with this. Just as many things as we've achieved, we never give ourselves credit for it. Right? I'm a terrible overthinker. I think a lot of us are overthinkers.
I'm a professional overthinker.
And anything,
I'm so good at overthinking it. I will overcomplicate any problem you got. I will make it really complicated and complex.
Yeah. And it weighs on you in ways that are tangible. I think that's why a lot of us are depressed, that we've gone through depression. And at the end of the day, you've got to, I told my son that the only wish I have for him is that he enjoys his career more than I did. All right. I never enjoyed playing football until I was done. I never appreciated any of the
Could
things
you say that
I
again?
did. Yeah, I never did. I never enjoyed playing until I was done.
Yeah.
And I never appreciated any of the things that I did until years later. I have records that stand, and I've
single season sack leader at Vanderbilt. This guy. Yeah.
But I never thought about it. I never appreciated it. All I knew is that I didn't break Derek Thomas's sack record. That's the only thing I cared about when I was in that moment. And the whole time I was playing, I was thinking about, am I going pro? And when I wasn't starting, was I going to start? When I started, am I going to be all conference? When I was all conference, am I going to be an All-American? And am I going to get drafted? And never enjoyed any of it.
Yeah.
And the same is probably true of my banking career. I made way more money banking my first year than I ever made playing football. And I was always mad because my bonus was never what,
How long did it take you to figure this all out? I'm seeing like a lot of realizations.
Yeah, probably 53 years or so.
Well, it's Dan Sullivan's talking. He's asking us to stop comparing against the ideal and to only judge how we were and who we are now, and that's the only distance that we should be evaluating anything. Is just how have you grown since you started this, whatever that starting point is. Like you are growing, and be happy with what you got.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of truth to it, and especially when you look at that in regard to how you look at your children. And as parents, I think one of the biggest pieces of damage we can do to our kids is to not let them know that they are good enough.
Yeah.
Right. Because we feel like it is our goal to make sure that they reach their potential, whatever that is. And, chances are they're going to reach that potential more efficiently and happier if they realize that they don't have to do it, and they're doing it because they want to do it, and because it makes them happy, and not because they don't want to disappoint you.
Do you tell them that they never get there?
Do
you even get there? Do we ever get there?
You never do.
You're not supposed to get there. We're already here.
Yeah, and there is no there.
Yeah,
and that's the point. Had I thought about the fact that I was playing a game that was fun, that I enjoyed, versus trying to achieve something for some reason that I don't even know what the reason was. Like when you really look back on the on a lot of especially the external reasons. I think it's really hard to really define what it was that was so damn important, right? Other than, I like doing this. And even with my business, I've had a love-hate relationship with my company for years because, I haven't, reached this goal that I had pictured. But when you look at it and I look back, I'm like, okay, so how many companies stay in business for 20 years? And God, how much have I learned? I got to spend all this time with my kids. I've learned all of these lessons about life. I've met all these crazy entrepreneurs. I got to be president of EO, and I've gotten to meet a whole lot of people that I wouldn't have ever been able to meet had I stayed in banking. I would have made a lot more money banking, probably. Probably own a hedge fund by now. But
don't start regretting it.
No. But so I wouldn't have. I would not have. I do not believe I would have had the relationship with my kids. I do not believe that I would have grown. And so I don't have the regrets. And even when I think about my business, it's cool. And you've especially if I'm not doing everything as I once did, and I'm starting to enjoy that part of the journey and being able to do other things that I enjoy doing. It makes a whole lot of sense.
Was there a decision that you've had to bring to EO for assistance that you'd like to share, or about how you navigated a decision, with a presentation in forum, or?
I've taken a lot of things to my forum. I took a lot of things to my forum during. We were together for 14 years. 13 years. And it's funny, I would always talk about family in forum, and the decisions that I bought to forum were, do I let my company go? Or one of the things I learned was anytime there was a question of whether or not you should keep someone, the answer is always no.
That should be a rule of thumb. That should be a rule of thumb.
That's a joke
if you have
in
to
our
ask
forum.
the question,
Yeah.
the answer is no.
Time to let them go.
It's time to let them go.
That's a joke in our forum. Has anybody here ever regretted letting somebody go? Never.
Never.
You're always glad to see that door hit them on the way out,
That's
and
right.
you move on.
But you're doing the presentation because you're in fear. You're in fear.
Absolutely.
Why can I not make this important decision of letting this person go? I mean, you might as well just say, all right, help me fire this person because
Yes.
I am unable to do it.
That's right.
I have a theory, and that is that you don't want to be that person running through their mind for the next however long that you fired that person. Somebody out there you're going to be the bad guy to somebody. But the truth of it is you need to separate, and you're both going to have a better experience afterwards. And you have to remember that. That's my opinion.
Yeah. And the concept of taking learnings from the experiences, I think when you can start doing that, and frankly, when you can start looking at the things you're going through as more of a game than anything else. I mean, a lot of us, you always want, the whole concept of wanting versus needing to do something. Most of us don't need anything, right? And when you realize that you don't need anything, it frees you up to really believe that, I'm doing this because I want to, and I can stop doing this anytime I feel like it. So what is the stress actually what is that stress that I'm worried about, right? I mean, I've already been through the worst thing other than something happening to one of my kids. I kind of went through that too, but that I feel like I could go through. So, if the worst thing that could happen to me is, something happens to my business and I lose it, okay, I'll figure something else out. Right?
That sounds like the definition of freedom to me.
That it is. And
Alan, talk to us a little bit about what it was like being a president.
I enjoyed being EO president. The one thing that the one thing that there's a couple things that I really liked about being president. One, leading or being in a position to, and Samira does everything, so let's get that out there.
Exactly.
But just being in a position to where people are looking at you as a leader of so many just ridiculously impressive people. And getting to meet other people from other chapters that are in the same position, and going to the president's meetings and being able to have those discussions over a cocktail, at 3:00 in the morning about something that you wouldn't tell anyone else, and know that they're going to understand because they've been in the same situation at some point, and they're dealing with a lot of the same things. And I think that's one of the coolest things about EO. That's a really cool thing about the presidents, about being president, is the fact that there's a lot of other presidents, and you just get to leave a mark on an organization. Looking where EO, I never thought EO Nashville would be as big as it is now. I mean, it's just amazing to me that it's.
Can I brag on you for a minute?
Okay.
Of course, right?
Sure. Why not?
So we were at president's meeting. I was incoming president after Alan, and we're sitting in this room, and everybody, all the presidents and incoming presidents, are introducing themselves around the room. And the current largest chapter in North America was New York, and they said, "Yeah, we're at 225, whatever the number was." And we kept going around. And I poked Alan in the side because I knew he'd get to introduce himself in a second. And he said, "I'm Alan Young, EO Nashville, and we're at 226." And that guy whipped his head around like, "What the hell?" And that's a moment I'll never forget, because that we had been chasing, like we do as entrepreneurs. We're just trying to get better and better and be the best. And that was the moment we surpassed New York City, which is 8 million people. And we weren't even 2 then.
Over
probably 1.7 million.
That's right.
But that was a special moment for me.
Yeah. Was there a
to
part
hear
of
that?
Was there a part of being president that was hard?
The hardest part was realizing that everyone is going to look at the journey differently, right? You want everyone to have a great experience. You want everyone to be engaged. You want everyone to get the most out of the organization. And in your heart, you know that they can't get the most out of the organization if they're not engaged and involved. So I think the hardest part was letting go of that, and just understanding that, your job as the president is to make sure that, again, people have the ability to do as much as they want to do. You can't make people do anything, especially entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So, it's making sure that you communicate in a way that people can receive it, making sure that you meet people where they are, You know, and I gave a talk. I gave a talk at EO Speaks, whatever you call it.
EO Talk.
And it's just about being the only black guy in the room. And, you know, my first experience in EO was going to a university and being in a room of 700 and something people. And there was probably like 4 or 5 black people there. And I felt completely comfortable because I just felt like I was around people that
your tribe.
got me.
Yeah.
And, you know, I never felt odd or anything other than than a lot of love as EO president.
Yeah.
And it was just a great experience. I mean, getting to travel and Nashville had already, you know, developed a reputation for being a really influential chapter, and I feel like we kind of took that to some additional levels. But when people hear that you're from Nashville, there's a different expression that they had, and the different things that we were doing, and we developed the house system, and we developed a lot of different things, and you put a lot of structure around the membership process, and we did some good things. So it was a great experience. I would not trade that time. You know, incoming president was great. You know, being president and as I said, past president
that's the best.
Certainly one of the best titles you can ever have. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for serving us during your presidency, and I appreciate you having as a friend here in EO. And
Absolutely.
And if you are an entrepreneur in Nashville and you're looking for a tribe to belong to, you can join us, eonashville.com, and learn about the 350 other entrepreneurs here in Nashville that belong to a forum experience and get to grow together, make important decisions together. Please join us again for the next episode of The Decision.
Thanks for listening to the Decision Podcast by Nashville EO. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.